the idea behind a NumPy array is that it's a way to work with multi-dimensional data in a simple way. NumPy is a library that's incorporates a lot of numerical tools, and arrays are probably the most often used. So anytime you're trying to do something that's working with vectors or matrices or multi-dimensional arrays, or even most math functions, you're probably just going to want to use NumPy. If you use Python, you've probably heard of NumPy. The other library that we're going to use today is called PyTorch or Torch. This is a library developed for deep learning framework. The tensors of PyTorch behave very similarly to NumPy arrays with some additional capabilities. So let's create a section that we'll call NumPy arrays. Great. And here I'm just going to create one or two arrays and manipulate them in very simple ways. And then in the assignment, you can look up the documentation yourself to fill out the rest of the assignment. Right, so first of all, if we want to, let's say we want to create array data, the function to create a new array is np.array because we imported NumPy as np. And then we can put a variety of things that can be converted to an array. In this case, we're going to do a list of lists. And let's say the first list will have 1, 2, and 3, and the next list might have 2, 4, and 6. Okay, and so now if we print our array data, we'll see that it is a two-dimensional array. So there is a dimension for the rows and a dimension for the columns. It's possible to get even more dimensionality here, but this is just a simple array. Something that might be interesting is looking at the shape of, the shape of the data. In this case, this is the shape, so it's a 2 by 3, which means there are two dimensions because there are two numbers here. The first dimension, or the number of rows, is 2. The second dimension, the number of columns, is 3. Great, so let's move on. You can also create your own. There are many ways to create NumPy arrays. Just another example is if you want to create a NumPy array that has let's say we want to create a random array, and that's done with the np.random subdirectory, and there's a function called randn which generates random normal variables, so values that are distributed across the Gaussian, and then we get to put the shape that we want this to be. So let's say we want it to be a 7 by 8, and then let's print random array. So in this case, each row has 8 columns and there are 7 rows. Let's make this a little bit smaller. And let's add another dimension here. Let's make 2 of these. Right, so in this array, because we have dimensions 4, 3, and 2, that means that we have 4 separate two-dimensional grids, making it a total of 3 dimensions. And each of those grids is a 3 by 2. And so if we want to actually access the elements of, if we want to actually access specific elements of random array, the way we would do that is with these brackets. And then inside the brackets, you can put different indices. So let's say on the first dimension, we want, let's say we want this third grid here. So we would put a 2. And then we want the first row. So then we would put 0, and let's say we want the second column, then we would put 1. And that would give us this specific element. We could also, let's say instead of just that top right value on the third grid, let's say we want it on all of them, you would do that with a colon. And so that would give us an array that's just filled with these 4 values here. Great. So another way that we can access specific elements of an array is with Boolean values. Let's actually just create a bool array. and let's say that bool array is equal to random array less than 0. Okay, so now instead of specific, so what it's doing is it's comparing every single element to this 0 and creating an array that's the exact same shape and size, but each element now is this comparison. So this specific element, is it less than 0? And if the answer is false, then that's what the result would be. So now if we want to actually just get the values from random array that are, let's say, less than 0, we could use this bool array, which is the same size and shape, to index into all of the true values. So let's show that as well. So let's say print, actually let's not show bool array again. So if we say random array and then indexed by this Boolean array that you can see here below, let's see the results. And now it's printing all of the negative values from that array. Okay. There's more to arrays, and you can look up the documentation yourself as you're going through the assignment.